And I think so. Good to go. Now, we've got an apology. Well, James Sainsbury will be coming online, so he will be in online, but informing not part of the quorum. Any other apologies?
Well, Bruce was either going to be late or not coming because he was cancelled.
Okay, so apologies for just, seeing for lateness. That's right.
He's not sure if he can make it.
That's right. He's doing some catering. Otherwise, everybody else is being accounted for.
We don't have
We don't have a Caleb. Oh, Caleb. Okay.
He's either invisible or he's not here.
So there are no official apologies at this stage.
Was he get you? Was he this morning?
That's okay. No official apologies, but Bruce will be late, James will be online, and hopefully Caleb will be here at some stage. Any urgent business? Just moving on to a declaration of interest.
Yeah. Sorry, Mayor Adrian. Yes, obviously on the Fonterra plan change. Yes, I am a Fonterra shareholder.
And also the same for me, 7.2, just declaring a declaration of perceived interest, because like James, our company's shareholders of Fonterra, I did seek advice on this, and because there isn't the nature of this recommendation, there is no pecuniary interest, so we won't have to step out of the room. And of course, everybody here, whether you're staff or you have family members of the staff, there's always a connection in our community to Fonterra. So no declaration needed there because you have no benefit. There is no benefit to it. Okay. James and I are the closest to it as shareholders. But again, the nature of this recommendation doesn't deem it to be, just stepping out. We can choose not to participate in the discussion, however, if you feel that would be appropriate. But
I suspect I would probably need to declare the same conflict of interest in the shareholdings of the fund interest.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Gary. And that's the thing with a small district. This is what does happen in this instance.
But sorry, just on that, with the advice that you've got, I feel comfortable staying and being part of that. So that's what I'll be doing unless I get advice.
I think it's perfectly. There is no pecuniary interest. That's the C. Thank you. So just note that Gary, James, Tia, and myself, and Steph. Can I have confirmation of previous minutes, 20th of March, please? To move. Second, thanks, Dane. Seconded. Thanks, Kevin. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. We don't have a public forum this morning. Okay, so I'll move to item 7.1. And James is online. Good morning, James. So 7.1, we've got Rose and Sarah with us today. I just picked from it. I could see Davidson gone. It's just those. Yeah. So Rose talking about the playground this morning. Just an update and a recommendation to get through. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, everybody, and hi, James. The objective of us coming to council today is to seek council's approval of the developed design of the playground. So we were here late September last year for approval of our concept design, and since then we've undertaken what we call a developed design phase, which is effectively the second of 3 phases in the design process. The next of which will be the detailed design phase. Do we go back a little bit? Yeah, that one. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so since the concept design was approved, we have worked through this process. So that process has included incorporating feedback that we received from internal council staff and council's play specialist. We also supported council through the council-led part of the consultation, which took place in November and December last year. That included a play day at the Domain, primary school gala day, night markets and the Saturday markets, and that was in conjunction with predominantly the Pride of Place team, who we think did a really, really good job with that. It was really interactive and used multiple media and methods of consultation, so that was really valuable. And we had members of our working group at each of those events, and we were also able to seek feedback from the community, and from a working group perspective, we also got a lot out of that. We have also reconfigured aspects of the design. For example, we shifted the cycle path. It used to go through the middle of the cut through the centre of the and through the two trees. What we've done is we've shifted that south, so effectively it comes off the southern end of Mura Street and it runs past. One of the main reasons for that was safety. When we've got a 3-metre cycle path and members of the community coming in, if you've got children dashing back and forth, we felt that was a bit of a safety issue. So we've configured it and we think reconfigured it, and we think that's a much safer option. And between the swing area you see there, as it comes off Mura Street, there's a swing bay there. There will be a fence in between the cycle path and the swing bay area. We've situated the barbecue area closer to where the toilets, so further north, and we shifted a junior area just adjacent to the swing bay area. So we think that the way we think it flows better now, and we've got a more defined kind of junior area, and so we did that. We've substantially adjusted the surfacing. There was a lot more bark in the concept design, and most of it now is really a combination of what will be wet pour rubber. There'll be some turf, and there'll be some hogging, but that can still be kind of adjusted as we work through the detailed design phase.
Yeah, I was going to say it's like a lime chip.
Oh, hogging, it's like a little, like a finer chip.
White chip.
Yeah. We actually did we did a big day in Auckland where we went to a range of playgrounds to have a look, and I know that council, I know it's a cheaper option, but it's a far messier option, and there's certainly some limitations there. And
you need to consider prams and wheelchairs. If we're doing accessibility, you can't have parking.
Yeah, the accessibility factor is massive. And we'll come back to that. And underneath the two trees will be nature play. So there'll be more kind of native plantings like low shrubs, and it's a combination of that. So the detail to be determined there, but effectively what we're going to end up with is, because there's less bark and more kind of artificial surfacing, we will offset the balance that, I suppose, with the landscaping, and that will end up creating a really, really nice environment, which feels balanced. The water themed area, which is closer to where the top end of the Flying Foxes in that barbecue area, it included a mound and tunnels and slides. We actually shifted that into the junior area. We thought that the children would benefit most from that, and that's going to be that's shifted kind of in between the swing bay and the kind of the other little junior tower. So we think that's a positive change. We made the half basketball court slightly larger, just to better accommodate the netball club, especially from a warm-up perspective. The big air swing. So we originally had it was in the back corner, the top corner, but we've consulted with the athletics club, and they had expressed reservations around access to their storage shed, and it also potentially caused safety issues with children crossing through the Flying Fox area. So we've actually pulled that out of this developed design for now, but there is the opportunity if we get specific sponsorship for it. It will be towards to the right of the end of the Flying Fox. But yes, right in there. So it will be in that vicinity there. But in order to include that, we would want specific sponsorship for that item. If we don't get specific sponsorship for that item, we don't think a huge amount would be lost, because we're going to have quite a big Eagle's Nest swing, which will provide quite a large and alternative swinging opportunity for those older children. So
How much is
the
just ballparkish.
the
Flying
swing,
Fox. No, the Flying Fox.
the Flying Fox is about 45,
45.
but for the we have sponsorship for our Flying
year
Fox
one
now.
is, yeah,
I might come back to you on
No,
that.
that's okay. No, it's just sort of,
it's the year one that's in doubt.
It's the year swing that's in doubt.
The negotiable, depends on funding, and
Yeah, I'll have to come back to you.
Yeah,
on
no problem.
that's cool.
Yeah, okay.
And the cross next to the tower situation, that's quite a large Eagle Nest swing anyway.
It's about a 9-metre diameter, so it's
Yeah.
got a basket swing. So
Yeah.
we've also focused on enhancing the inclusivity components of the playground. This has been a recurring theme throughout our consultation, and also in the research. And we're doing a little bit of consultation with Sport Waikato, and they've undertaken their own research into, got it somewhere on this bits of paper, into accessibility and inclusion in Matamata-Piako. And for example, young people 5 to 17 years, 50% of children have a disability. And 80% of young people with a disability would like to be doing more physical activity. For adults 18 and over, 65% of adults have a disability. And it's not just physical disabilities, it's neurological impairments. And so we really, and the sentiment through the consultation has been that people really, really want to see a genuinely inclusive space. There's a new Magical Bridge playground in Claudelands in Hamilton, which is a great example of an inclusive, a genuinely inclusive playground. But not everyone can get to Hamilton. Not everyone can drive. So we want our community to have a cost-free, genuinely available option to them in our community. So that's going to be something we continue focusing on in terms of how we can just create with subtle design features to make it a really, really genuinely inclusive playground. So that includes not only the equipment, it also includes things like areas where children can break away. You've got your neurodiverse children who don't necessarily do well interacting with others, but they want to be near others. So, for example, there's a great example of a xylophone in Hayman Park in Manukau, where you've got a xylophone where you've got one child can play there and the other child can play here. So they're not looking directly at each other, but they can engage in a musical activity. So it's also quiet areas. So we've got the nature play area. We're looking at a sensory path through there, and also areas where children can retreat to. So it's all of those things we're going to continue focusing on through this detailed design phase. But we've kind of got, I think from an equipment perspective, I think we've got a really good balance. The tower we're looking at has two towers. One will be one for children with limited mobility, and one will be a full mobility. So we're thinking about how we can cater for more children in that respect as well.
And what comes with that too is the surfacing around it. So if you've got even the spinny, what's the wheel carousel?
The inclusive
carousel, so everybody can use it, but you make it inclusive for a wheelchair and practically inclusive, so they can hold on still.
Yeah.
Gone into a lot of detail with all of these things.
And a rectangle trampoline, for example, that a wheelchair can go onto.
Wow.
Yeah, and then other children can play with the child. So So it's all of those things that it means that they can feel part of it. They feel like they're able to, they're not in the corner, that corner where you've got your swing, that they've been considered as part of the overall design. We've removed the cherry trees on and done some other made some other landscaping changes. We've received a bit of feedback in the last couple of days from Chris and Mark, and we've answered those, but potentially look at removing the Nikau, but we'll just work on them in terms of exactly what the eventual plants will be that go in. But we've got an idea there. And the junior area is indicative at the moment. We have kind of costed it, but we'll be offering it up for sponsorship so that we can, and we're looking to tweak the design so we can maybe kind of get the best outcome from a play perspective and a cost perspective. So that will evolve a little bit through this next stage. We've also consulted more with our iwi. Our iwi offered up a narrative, the Papakoti story, which will have some metaphorical incorporation into the tower design and some surfacing. With respect to a water feature, an ongoing sentiment from the iwi was that they wanted to see some living water, but accepting that we've moved away from a water play feature for maintenance reasons and cost reasons, but we've landed on effectively what will be probably like a boulder with some water flowing out of it, so that it becomes a tactile element, but it's going to be much lower cost and not going to have the maintenance issues that other water play features might create. We've also agreed to incorporate some storyboards that they will provide content for each of the respective iwi, and some patterns to etch into the concrete paths, and potentially some other elements. So that's been a really constructive process, and so that's been good. We've undertaken a topographical survey of the playground, and most recently we've linked a civil engineer with Matamata-Piako to provide engineering input into the next phase. And the resource consent preparation is underway, but we obviously need to keep working through this detailed design phase so that we can, put the appropriate detail into it.
Yeah, because I think the resource consent is around the drip line of the trees, the protected trees. That's the need for the resource consent.
And also structures on reserves. Yeah.
Oh, and extending radio. Yeah. So that's all under control.
But that's underway. And we've also been engaging with potential equipment suppliers, and that's really important for us because it's part of our, we want to have some, agency in terms of what equipment ends up going in for the reasons I've kind of outlined, making sure that it's got the inclusivity value that we want, etc. So we also, it's critical from our perspective, we confirm equipment and obtain pricing, because we believe that a really important part of our fundraising is going to be equipment sponsorship. So we need some pricing and some specificity around that, and that value will represent somewhere between $800,000 and $1 million. So we think that's going to be critical to get that sponsorship. So we're working with Chris and the executive team on working through that process.
Questions? I guess the burning question for a lot of us is how far you've got in fundraising, and in kind, and just how you want to.
Yeah. Here's my piece of paper. Okay, so from in terms of money in the bank at the moment, through our website, 7,820. But pledged we have 185. So I've got about 192,000 either pledged or received from individuals or families, and from businesses. So there have been a number of businesses who have come forward to offer donation of their goods or services in kind. But we need, in terms of quantifying that, that's going to be properly scoped and quantified as part of the detailed design phase. They'll be coming in and working with Matamata-Piako to properly to get this land on the specifications and confirm what they will be offering, and then we can quantify what that's worth. But based on indicative values, so far, based on what offered their initial estimates, we're about 320,000 worth. So in total, we're about just over 500,000 worth of fundraising so far. So we are formally, once we've got confirmation from council around equipment, the selection of an equipment supplier, and therefore some pricing to go with that, well, we've got all of our material ready to go. So we'll be looking to get that equipment sponsorship. There will be a subsequent phase where we're looking for street furniture and landscaping contributions, which will be another level of fundraising. And we also have a fundraising event booked for January the 6th. So that will involve June the 6th. Sorry.
January was a long way away.
That sounds better.
Sorry, June the 6th. That's a Thursday night at the Civic Centre. We've had someone come forward who has offered to fund a celebrity speaker, and there will be a dinner and a fundraising option to go with that. So we'll be looking to make another dent in the fundraising through that event.
And that'll be a really good way to promote the project. So yeah.
Sorry, just going to say, Rose, does that amount that you've got mentally in the bank take in the latest one?
Oh yeah, the bequest.
Bequest?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I've just worked on a 130k. That was a mid-range.
Yeah.
I just had a couple of questions. You, I guess, when you get a bit further down the track, you might know whether you're going to hit your budget that you need overall. But firstly, is there any thought going into how that might get staged if you do need to do it in processes?
We've talked about it with Boffa Miskell, what we would do first. For example, maybe the court would be things like the court and other elements.
Yeah.
We're really trying to avoid that though, and we're really trying to galvanise the community to avoid that. But we are conscious that that may be a necessity if we get to a particular point and hit a wall. But we don't want to be in that position. But we're aware that So we've talked about that.
Cool.
Yeah.
And my other question was, I just see Todd sitting in the room there. I just wondered if he had any input or any thoughts specific about the maintenance of this, and whether you see any specific issues with having a look after it going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's been quite a critical stage of this process going forward. We've worked together all the way through, and there's some design we've changed on the way through. The water play was a example of that. Yeah. The overall budget, once it's built, and the operational budget's been incorporated into it, so that's good. So yeah, no concerns from my point of view.
We've definitely been conscious of the maintenance aspects. Yeah.
Really good. I guess timing wise, how's that looking, team? Just perhaps Chris or Don.
Chris might like to explain.
Want to come up, Chris? Come up to
the
the
process that we've identified.
come up to Rose if you like. Then you can hear on the microphone. Thank you, Chris. Wasn't that? Oh, there's a spare microphone here at the side. I'll just swing it a little bit. Don't go all the way, but yeah, perfect. Thank you.
We're actually catching up, and Susan and myself are catching up with the trust after this meeting. So that'll be to talk through the procurement and what has been done and sort of how that's going to look. But at the MOU stage, we've done, as Rose sort of alluded to, there was a staged approach for the procurement, depending on what the fundraising looked like. So I think that was 1st of February, 1st of May, 1st of August, I think were our 3 stages. Yeah. To have that fundraising in place. And then if we didn't have it by that 3rd stage, that's when we'd start looking at things like potentially staging it and things. But as Rose said, we'd hopefully not be in that position.
If June's really successful, then your fundraiser on,
But we need to be able to hit the ground running with the in particular the business and the equipment sponsorship.
So the only question I have is around the goods in kind, or as to how that might work, because obviously playground equipment's quite specific from the supplier. How does the businesses that are wanting to, is that a bit of a work on, because generally you have a contractor that installs. Does it complicate it a little bit by having other with goods, like for people to give services in kind?
Yeah, there would definitely be things, and that's part of the discussion after this, is what is in kind and what can't be.
I think the building the gazebo over the barbecue is relatively straightforward. It's a builder's thing, and I understand that there is a beach for that to do that one.
There is.
That's probably the simplest one, I would assume.
Probably landscaping as well.
Landscaping's to be.
We take contributions of, like, for example, the boulders.
Nice.
And the transport of the boulders. We haven't even included that in that amount, but that's got a value, but we haven't.
It's just good to understand, because just that complexity of what does the services in kind look like over the whole project. So there are some things that you have identified that can be quite easily achieved.
Surfacing of the basketball court, we've had a locally based business has offered up all of the surfacing, and they're nationwide.
Yes.
Concrete as well. Yes, but if we can work with bring them into the detailed design phase, they can properly scope what they would do, and if it's acceptable, then that would be carved out, for example, of in the tender process. So that's something we'll work through with.
So that's potentially jobs from fixing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it'll be about identifying things that can be out of scope and things that can't be, and then obviously we've got things like, I'm not sure who the surfacing person is, but things like we'll obviously have to make sure that they fit into our health and safety policy to work on our reserves. So so everything like that, same with the pergola area and things like that, we have to make sure. So
there's a few moving parts, but I think the team are working through it. There's obviously a few little hoops to jump through.
We're conscious of the goods and services. We're totally conscious we need to manage that really carefully, because you can see how it gets unwieldy when it comes to a tender process. So we are trying to avoid that. But as a grassroots project, we've got businesses that want it. It's a local project. We've got people that genuinely want to contribute to participate in that. So it's trying to find the right balance there.
No, that's cool. And it'll just work it through. No, that's perfect. I think that just reassures everyone that So is there any further? James, have you got anything online you'd like to ask? No? All good? Oh, well, we've got a recommendation that the information we received and that the council approves the final concept design of the Matamata Domain playground prior to staff initiating the procurement process, and the third is that we authorise staff to undertake minor changes to the concept design where required. Moved Kevin, seconded Gary. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Awesome work. I'll give you a call about the 6th of June, and we'll go from there.
Apply for the liquor licence.
I guess the thing is this is a great example of a community council, yet another, and it's the way forward for adding on top of what the ratepayer pays if the ratepayer still pays it in a different way, but it really does bring that buy-in of a community asset that everyone can use. So well done. Thanks for your ongoing effort.
We can't wait to deliver it.
I know. And it takes time, unfortunately.
Before your grandchildren.
My grandkids will get to use it.
That's right.
No, that's cool. Thanks so much. Thanks for coming in. Good to see you. Catch up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, now we'll move on to item 7.2, which is the plan change 55 on Terra.
Morning, everyone. Good morning, councillors. We've got plan change 55 where the council has to decide how it wants to deal with the plan change request. Marius is going to sort of take you through the options for dealing with it and just explain the merits of it. I understood he gave you a bit of background on a workshop a few weeks ago just about the content of that request, but we're just going to simply deal with the sort of the options for dealing with that request today. So, good to you, Marius.
Thank you very much.
we'll take this as read, or have you got some other information? Oh, because we've got the paper, obviously. Is there any additional information on top of what we got in the paper?
There's a little bit of additional information.
Cool, just asking. We assume we read our papers and read everything that we're given, so yeah.
Yeah, with that as background, I've put some slides together just to refresh your memory on what we discussed at the workshop. I'll go through that very quickly, and please stop me if there's anything you want to specifically talk about. Mostly, I want to just come back to a couple of questions that you asked at the workshop that I didn't have immediate answers for. I think I can answer now. So to refresh your memory, the plan change seeks to extend the NECB noise emission control boundary for the Fonterra facility, to amend the noise limits. And you'll recall we spoke about how the limits themselves actually stay the same. There's just a change in the noise descriptor to align with the national planning standard. And then there's some minor drafting changes to the planning maps that we discussed, and also to the DCP, just to remove some drafting anomalies. Now, in terms of the effect on properties within the NECB, at the workshop, you raised the question of what exactly is the impact on those properties within the expanded NECB. And the answer is a difference of about 3 to 4 decibels more noise than permitted at the current NECB. And you can see that in the diagram at the bottom that shows you the location of the predicted 50 and 40, sorry, was it 45, I think, and 50 dB contours. And then for those dwellings closest to the 50 dB contour, there's a slight increase in noise, which of course the plan change proposes to mitigate by means of offering noise insulation to those affected dwellings. You also asked a question as to which properties are affected, and we've done a bit more work on that, and it is rural zoned land, vacant rural zoned land with one rural dwelling, and then I say there are approximately 11 residential dwellings. I've done a survey of the actual area in the meantime, and I think it's 13 dwellings, a church and a community hall, and the bowling club. Then you also asked the question of how do you actually compare these sound levels with perhaps more common sound sources that you're familiar with. So just to remind you, in terms of the increase in noise, 2 to 3 decibels are regarded as imperceptible, and then 3 to 4 decibels just perceptible. In terms of the 45 and 50 dBA noise limits, on the diagram there, you'll see that it compares to sound just above quiet radio music and below normal conversation. But Neil Savory, who's given us acoustic advice, he notes that while you can make this comparison, it is potentially influenced by tonal changes and duration and so forth. So, but that's the best we can do. And then also keep in mind that the the factory will comply with the 50 dB. The only properties affected by 50 dB are the properties owned by Fonterra. So in terms of the rest of the community, it's really the 45 dB. That's the controlling factor. So we discussed at the workshop your options to deal with the request. You can, under the RMA, you can reject it, you can process the request rather as a resource consent, you can accept the request, or you can adopt the request. And then we discussed the basis on which you can reject the request, and I think we were of one mind at the workshop that the application passes all of those tests, and that rejection is not really an option. In terms of processing the request as a resource consent, we discussed how a resource consent is usually used for specific development proposals, doesn't have much flexibility, whereas in this case with a plan change, what we're actually looking for is long-term flexibility and also consistency with the way in which we deal with other dairy fat processing sites in the district. And therefore, it's our recommendation that plan change is the appropriate way to go as opposed to a resource consent. In terms of accept, so the real choices really lie between accepting or adopting the request. And to remind you, accepting the request means that you're accepting the application for a private plan change for notification, with the intent being that we will notify the information provided by Fonterra, and the process will proceed at Fonterra's cost. Whereas if you opt to adopt the request, then you are taking the plan change on as part of your district plan, and you fund that as part of out of council's budget. Also, that accepting the request means that you have a neutral view on the merits of the plan change. That's to be decided in due course as we go through the process. Whereas when you adopt the request, you are sending a signal that you support the plan change. So our recommendation is to accept the plan change because it's site specific. It represents principally private gain, although we do recognise that the site is of huge importance for the district and the dairy industry. Because it's site specific, we think it's appropriate that Fonterra bear the bulk of the cost. It's also appropriate for Fonterra to control the contents of the plan change because it's specific to their site. And keep in mind that council has the ability to make submissions to the plan change. So if there's anything down the line that you disagree with, you still have full rights of participating as a submitter. And then, as I said, accepting the plan change means that you're taking a neutral position. Yes, so in conclusion, accepting the plan change does not imply that you hold an opinion on the merit, but it does indicate that you're satisfied that the request is in practice, so that it can be notified and considered on its merits. And you'll recall that at the workshop, we went through the detail of the information that Fonterra provided, and we we measured that against the RMA requirement, and it's on the basis of that we make the statement that the request is in accordance with sound resource management practice. So the next steps for us after you make your decision today as to accept or adopt is that we will consider the notification requirement, whether we opt for public or limited notification. We far down the process of making that recommendation with leaning towards limited notification. But because we have not fully completed the notification assessment, we're also asking you to consider to delegate the authority to make that notification decision to the group manager, growth and regulation, and or the district planner. So in point 1 there, our resolution that you resolve to accept the plan change for notification. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions? I think it's been fairly thorough. Yes, Kevin.
I just want to get it in my head clear. The current NECB, you can't do any more mitigation to get under those levels. So this basically is going to increase that NECB to make you are under the new level. Is that correct?
That's right, Councillor. So what Fonterra has shown us in the application is that over many years they've tried their best to mitigate noise on site. And the position they've reached at the moment is the best they can do. And that is, I guess, influenced by the fact that a lot of the equipment that they have on site is specialist and has a very long, huge capital investment and a long term to, I guess, justify the investment.
So things like the falling towers, they're cyclic, aren't they? They're pinned off at the moment.
Yeah, so the levels that they've worked on is the maximum noise that they'll under full peak reduction. And then, of course, what they're suggesting that to mitigate the fact that they have a higher noise profile is that they will insulate dwellings where the internal noise limits above 35 dB.
My grandparents used to own a property across the road from Sunny Park Dairy Factory. I can assure you that was more than 50 dB.
This has been very carefully modelled.
No further discussion?
No.
Someone want to move? So you move the recommendation as it stands?
As it stands.
And seconded, thank you, Russell. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Carried.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Very thorough.
Thank you. Right.
Thank you.
Okay, item 7.3 is Michelle and Sharon. And the renewal of the eyesight benefit. We have Sharon and Michelle. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. We should vote for. Okay, team, we've got Michelle and Sharon here this morning. Thank you. Got the light on, they've turned it off. I think you've obviously supplied us with the info and read it, so.
Okay, well, good morning, Mayor Adrian and Don and councillors. We're here today to ask you for a decision as to whether Te Aroha Eyesight should remain in the eyesight network or step away and act as an independent information centre. I think we've been part of the network for the 20 years and enjoyed all the benefits and the challenges, and now we think that the direction that Eyesight New Zealand is moving is geared more towards the bigger centres, and we don't think we need their membership requirements to operate and continue business as usual. There's some figures that I've provided in the attachment which show how our visitor numbers were declining pre-pandemic and through the pandemic, and now how they're climbing. Revenue is tracking the same, but the revenue is mixed up now. The revenue has changed, less commission and more retail. So some of the technology that Eyesight New Zealand wants us to adopt deals with the booking system, which we just can't justify. We don't get the bookings now that we used to. So we think, yeah, we stand alone, and we can still operate the same as we ever have, offering the same services. We can look at ways we can add more value to council. We've already been doing that. And I think, yeah, I'm happy to accept questions.
Yeah,
a lot of you might not know a lot about this space.
Yeah, I guess the thing is with the eyesights is they're moving into requiring certain tools and technology to fit the eyesight model.
Yes.
And the demand for that at our eyesight in Te Aroha doesn't match that.
That's
basically.
correct.
And
Yes,
it's an additional cost. We would not see a benefit necessarily.
that is correct.
Yeah. Quite an interesting space at the moment, I suppose. But anyway.
The tourism landscape has changed so much over the last few years, even pre-pandemic. There's less demand for booking services. People are, Googling and booking. However, they do come to us when they mess things up, or when they're fed up with Google, or, not everybody wants to spend their holidays Googling. There's still a space for us to operate and talk to people face to face.
Yeah, I think that's the key. Is some people want to talk to people, not just look at the screen. Kevin,
I would just go before Sue put it like I'd really like to listen to what Sue says, because there's an expert in the room on this.
Oh, look, Te Aroha isn't. I was going to say something which could be offensive. It isn't one of the major eyesights that Eyesight Network want to hold on to, and that's what it's all about. They don't mind. I get the feeling that they're looking to probably pay with 25, 30 eyesights nationwide, the big ones.
Queenstown,
that make sense, so that they can market those as overseas. And I take it. I understand their bellwether requirements and their IBIS requirements. They need some measurement for TNZ to say this is what they're investing in the network. So I get that. But if it's not worth it, it's not worth it. Michelle, the only question I would say was, is it only going to be $2,000-ish for the only signage? That's all you need?
For the external signage.
Yeah, and internal?
Honestly, the internal signage will be stickies, and we can absorb that in our internal budget. Few uniforms. It's not a biggie.
Yeah. I think we can do name badges.
And T-shirts or whatever. Yeah.
Well, we're talking 4 staff.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not significant.
Yeah.
I don't know what Maureen's all doing, but probably.
The other bonus of Te Aroha Eyesight is it's the back end, as I think I've alluded to you, of our facilities operations team. So it's our office of where the rest of us operate, and Michelle and her eyesight team provide great support, especially as we take on board the events team. So all the bookings through the Silverfern Farms are done through Eyesight, and they do the health and safety inductions and checks and delivery of those cards for customers 7 days a week. So that's just one of the examples of other additional support they provide. We're also looking at a bigger picture of how that team can also provide greater support beyond just even the eyesight, but into some of our other facilities to help out with spas when they're busy, etc., etc. So yeah, that's the beauty of us being council owned and operated and in a team of facilities. Yeah.
Sounds like no day is going to be the same.
It's the beauty of our job.
Yeah.
We love it.
Russell.
No, I support the recommendation. I just wanted to compliment Michelle and her team for the work they do, that we're going to continue to do
regardless of what they're called. So
Thank you, councillor.
Yeah, that's just a name change, really. It's still business as usual for the team in many ways. And again, I think we all agree with what Russell said, is the service that you especially, your commitment to the role over so many years and the number of people that you employ, that are underemployed, that work under you. It's your leadership, I think, that needs to be recognised. So thanks, Michelle, and the team.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks, Sharon. Obviously, you're leading as well. So with this recommendation,
Can I just add something to Michelle's work for the council? Whenever we have conferences, Michelle books a backpacker. Every time. She does not go anywhere to the recommended fancy hotels. She books the backpacker and walks. So I'm seconding it.
it's really following our prudent council. Okay, mover and a seconder. Moved. Russell seconded. Gary. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you. No, thanks for the thorough, report around it too. It's good to, heads around it these times. Thank you.
Just while I'm here, I would like to say a personal thanks to Councillor Whiting here for being my mentor over many years, navigating the way through the eyesight network, the higher sort of political echelons and the implications.
Those were powerful days, weren't they?
They were halcyon days of tourism, and of course Sharon, that continues to make me see the bigger picture beyond the eyesight. So thanks.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, oh, sorry. Okay. Sorry, Alicia. As Sue's coming down. Is she busy at the moment, or we're just running in? Because I think we were doing it after morning tea, weren't we? Yeah. No, we'll break for morning tea, and so back at 10:15. And that's us. And just to highlight that I'd said in our declarations of interest that we have a connection with Fonterra in so many different ways that it wasn't an issue with that recommendation. So welcome to discuss and move in second. Thank you. Right, we'll break for morning tea.
Just again, a disclaimer, I made Anzac biscuits, worst Anzac biscuits I've ever made. There is a disclaimer. Don't
Yep, we're back online. Welcome back. We'll now move on to item 7.4, which is the playground removals for Tom Grant Drive. Donated equipment. I've got Alicia and Suze. Alicia, I believe you're a new staff member. So I didn't recognise you down the back before.
Good morning,
Welcome.
Mayor and councillors. Good morning. Yeah, I am relatively new. I've been here probably coming up a year now.
Oh, a year. Yeah. Where have you been hiding?
Where's your office, Don?
She's been a month or two in England getting engaged.
Yeah.
Well, welcome anyway.
I'm here today to ask that you accept the Tom Grant Drive Committee's generous donation of equipment to the Tom Grant Drive playground. The playground is up for annual renewals this year anyway, so it'd be a great time to really spruce it up with some extra equipment. I'm coming to council today because the donation is over the 5,000 threshold that we currently have in place. I'd like to accept the report as read. I'd like to answer any questions.
Great. Questions, so I do have one.
No, because I think it's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's come from the landlords.
Yes, correct. So with the extension of it, for 20,000, does that include sort of the matting or whatever that's underneath, or is it because is there other cost to council around installing?
So the committee would like to donate purely the equipment, and council would include the matting and safety servicing, but that falls within this year's budgets.
It's in this year's budget, so that's good to clarify to have that. Yep, and with that,
So that's replacing the one further down by. Is it replacing the one that is there now?
no, it's adding to it.
It's adding to it because it's really, yeah, but anyway, no,
It will replace the existing module, so it's up for renewal anyway.
So the current module is up for renewal, so our renewal budget is placing for renewing that, and then these are additional pieces that will go on the same place. No, it was as part of our condition assessment that was the highest priority to be renewed. Yeah.
sparkly, that's all.
Well, I guess the thing is if there's any life in that equipment, yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I will
Anyway,
certainly move.
yeah, move. So second, you got a question?
Just procedural, really. $5,000. You know, how long has that been there? You know, is it a bit out of date? Is that
the good? Yeah, Susan's
Yeah, we do. I think we don't want to probably come to council to you every single time if it's about 5,000. So I think we'll come up with some options and then
But all of them up there, so you've
Good question, Bruce. Thank you. You've lit the light, so that's good. So you happy to second that motion, Bruce?
Yes.
Okay, it's moved. So second and Bruce. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
And against, carried. Thank you. Thank you for that. It's awesome.
Just for others info, the other one further down, the new one, what do you call them?
Baskets one.
Basket one, yeah, really well used. And,
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
It's the dogs down there.
Long Grant Drive committee as
Confident
well,
people
so
there.
fantastic.
It's good.
Yeah.
Good, wouldn't it?
I know. Long Grant Drive.
No, it was the swings were up for replacement.
Yeah, that was one.
That's what sits on the end. Yeah, swings were up for replacement. It wasn't replaced by. It was. Yeah. Anyway, we'll check that. Yeah.
Is it the one we were sitting down beside on the table?
No, that.
Further up.
Never mind. We'll just move on and talk about that afterwards when the meeting goes. Okay, so that's all done and dusted. So thank you. Right, and Susie, you staying on for the road naming?
I can do.
Unless there
Yeah, he is here. Yeah, but I
down
think,
to 10:20. Thanks, Lucy.
Thank you.
I mean, I'm happy it's not, there are.
We might as well do it with, since you're here. With the road naming, we have the one road being named for the Lockerbie Estate. Extension on from those streets that are already in place that look out to dirt at the moment.
Past what was the recommendation? March. I love the backstory, is always cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So really interesting.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Happy to move. Thanks, Sarah Jane. Any discussion? Seconded Dane? Yep. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. So that was quite an easy one. There's the procedure that I've been through. Right. Right, now we will move on to item 7.6, which is the elected members' remuneration. Sandra's gone, is she?
She's just on her way. She's just meeting with the grant applicant.
That's right, we can just pause.
You're okay?
Yeah, if she's, is she likely to be long or
No,
not?
she's coming. I'll just give her that.
She hasn't said. I don't know, no, we need to, yeah. Her paper.
Can we do Don's report first?
Yeah, we could. That's what we see.
She's literally walking now.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
Here she comes.
So, yeah, there was a requirement by Minister wanted us to have a remuneration and allowances policy. So Sandra has drafted that one up, given that the remuneration is set, but it's how we distribute it. So,
thank you. Apologies, I'm also holding a grant drop-in session at the same time as the meeting.
No worries.
So what I've got here for you today is exactly like Mayor Adrian has said. We've been required by the Remuneration Authority to put a policy together. The legislation and the Remuneration Authority's determination actually tell us pretty much 99% of what we can and can't do. However, they do require us to have a policy adopted by council and on our website prior to the end of this month. So 99% of what's in your policy is from legislation. The only additional parts we've popped into the policy is how the approval processes work. So when you submit your kilometre charges through to us, they get a primary and a secondary approver. That's really the only difference with this policy. So happy to take any questions.
Tried to keep it as brief as you could, Sandra. I said they were sort of Dryden Springs, so Dryden always talked about policy on a page, but
I tried. Couldn't quite make it.
But council, it's very hard to make a policy fit on one page. So if there's no discussion, would someone like to move the adoption of that?
We do district plan hearings in. We do district plan hearings when we're in a normal meeting, don't we? So.
That's council, yeah. It's yeah.
And even it's like.
Are you meaning sort of hearings commission type stuff?
No, it just says in here that it's, sorry, elected members who sit on district plan hearings receive meeting fees as determined by the Remuneration Authority. And I'm thinking we don't get paid for that now.
So,
I think should.
So some councils delegate that to a subcommittee of council and therefore would possibly be entitled to that. We haven't generally gone down that route, and then elected members aren't able to claim additional.
So that would only be if it's outside of a normal council meeting, right?
Yeah. So that's, I guess, just what's allowed in legislation. So if that did come up, we wanted to be able to include that in our policy, but I don't remember a time where it's come up.
Is that why the chair of corporate and operations committee is in there too? So even though we don't have that committee?
Oh yeah. COC in there still.
Yeah.
I've overlooked that. That good spotting.
Sorry, is that in the report?
Yeah, so on page 6 of the report, and that's also mentioned on page 8 of the report. Sorry, I just took it as a.
That was your choice, though, Adrian. I mean, that
was this is separate. This is the background. That's not part of the policy. This is the. These are the policy is the draft policy, and this is the background information around how the remuneration was set for this term.
Yes. So what sorry, that makes sense now. What I've appended to the policy is what went to your council meeting for formal resolution, your second meeting after your election. So at that time, we did have a corporate operations committee, and Mayor Adrian was deciding whether that was still there. So we had all of the options in the report. So that isn't part of the official adopted policy, but it's there so that everyone can see how the mayor versus deputy mayor versus other councillors is split, because that's, I guess, still our official report.
Yeah, that's the background information.
Sorry, I didn't think I would have included that.
No,
that's all right.
Yeah, the policy is the first 3 pages. So did we have a mover? Sorry, Move James, seconded Kevin. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against. Carried. Thanks, Sandra. You can go back to those dropping sessions. You're getting a few people, obviously.
Maybe 5 over the past couple of days, so not a huge amount.
No, but still good that we're engaging with the community. So well done. Thank you. Good work. Alrighty, now we'll go to item 8.2, which is the chief executive.
Just a couple of things I want to, highlight, Madam Chair. Number one is the local work done well and the work that the Mill Forum has authorised to proceed. And I just want to emphasise a couple of things. Number one, it doesn't bind council to any particular outcome at all. And number two, the work that is intended or necessary under that assessment doesn't prejudge any particular outcome. And number three, what was number three? Oh, it's got to be number three.
Oh, yeah, well, that's all part of the outcomes, isn't it?
Yeah. What will be required of us, and we'll talk of, and if anybody's particularly interested, have a look at Simeon Brown's interview with.
Which I shared with you the other day.
Yeah.
And you should also see John Campbell's trip around the site. That's very interesting.
Look, the water plans that they're talking of, which is to establish confidence in the minister's mind that the local authority in question that's submitting that water plan meets certain standards as far as resourcing, resilience, financial sustainability, and commitment to attaining a certain agreed standard. So the signals that he was sending out well, finish that off. So this work will lead into that anyway. So in other words, we're not doing any work here that won't be required anyway. And we're funding it from the transition funding, which was the leftover from the NTU. That's not the better off funding, this is the transition funding. The minister, in my opinion, was signaling very strongly, in my opinion, that aggregation is going to be expected. And he indicated that there would be a legislative statutory fallback if they are not satisfied with the propositions put up by councils to effectively put commissioners in. Now, I know they'll use that power very cautiously because they understand the implications of it, but I don't think there's any doubt that this government is whilst it's changing the, if you like, the approach to the issues, three waters issues, that his expectations of really some form, something that's different to what we've got now.
Is there a time? Is there a time on that document?
Yep, 12 months. We'll have 12 months from 1 July to come up with the water services plan, and then any implications flowing from that, whether it's aggregation, will flow from that. I'm not. If I can make a comment, I am extremely pessimistic about the likelihood of ideal associations forming out of these arrangements. Local government, this is not casting any suspicion, and Jack Tamer actually asked the one right question. He said the council's working in the best interests of its people, and those best interests are not served by joining up with somebody else. What then? And the minister's reaction and response, but when pressed, was we've got our statutory backup. Now, how strongly they wish to utilise that, I don't know.
The commissions.
Well, yeah, that would be a big step, very big step. But the reality is, I think they're wanting to see some meaningful change out of this. Now, there's lots of ways you can skin a cat, as you all well know. I mean, we've talked about combining functions is, you can have combined functions as just as much as you can have combined entities. You've got to have rules around how that would work, and everyone's got to buy into it and sign up to it. But you could say, well, let's just have one unit delivering our capital work program. There's a project management team. Now, I'm not suggesting that as an option, I'm just suggesting
there's plenty of ways.
There's other ways of doing it.
Could be explored though.
Yeah, because the greatest opportunity I see from that is that by working as individuals, we're working as councils, we're working in silos when we're all in the same pipes and infrastructure. So there has to be some better deals and timing of work so that contractors can do the work at a price that's more affordable than what's coming through in the silo system at the moment. Correct. But it'll be a case of the political, the challenge will be putting the political and parochialism aside and just looking at the pipes and infrastructure and the opportunities.
We seem to have forgotten the ratepayer in this discussion, though.
Oh, we have to. We're not making a decision.
No. I'm saying, Adrian, the ratepayer seems to be a side issue of who's going to pay for this, because they were quite clear. Government aren't going to pay for it. Council's going to pay for it. And do we, if we have looked after our water and somebody across the border hasn't, our ratepayer is paying for them.
Well, but then there's the other side of it is it's how you address cost subsidisation, if that is a thing, because timing is the challenge here. Is there will be some councils have already renewed their infrastructure. It all depends, and wastewater is the big one. So our timing is now, and by the time if anything happens, we may have done our infrastructure and be facing those costs. So. But there's the chlorine and all the other things that there are benefits of bulk buying and maintenance and stuff like that.
Well, it's also skills retention, skills attraction.
Yeah, it's not just.
If I get one person out of my 2.5 person compliance unit, go, well, I've lost 50% of my compliance team. There was a period there when, and one of the reasons why we're getting potentially whacked by a regional council over Waihao, I lost 2 project managers, and that particular project got lost in the wild. It's these more, some of the more non-financial issues which have a criticality about them.
Correct.
Practical capacity.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially, and we aren't a large council. People perceive Matamata-Piako as a big council. We are not a large council.
Sort of a little bit.
Well, we're not large, people overthink it, that we aren't as big as what.
We're a small provincial.
Yeah.
Media. But we punch above our weight.
We do punch, but our, like Waipa and Waikato are way bigger than us. So, once upon a time they went.
Anyways.
So are there going to be opportunities for that borrowing power that also regulate some of the other ones?
They were talking about a bulk borrowing model that would, because it is the cost of borrowing as part of it. You're dead right, Gary, and that is part of working together in that aggregated model for the ability to borrow. Because I'm looking forward to the economic regulator actually looking at things, because I personally believe that a lot of our standards have become gold plated. When you're putting basically drinking water back into a river. As much as it's a great aspiration, it is very expensive. And where does the economic regulator recognise that? Because the cost of doing it is insane.
It can be 3 and 4 times.
Yeah. So the owner of Carlin down at Napier this week, the last 2 days, the back of the day, and I got a couple of texts from Carl saying that there is quite a bit of talk about the standards that will be applied in the wastewater discharge standards, and Matamata always signaling that they're going to set minimum standards. Communities want to go above and beyond, but that would be their choice, but they are looking to establish, which is great. And I was talking to Councillor Hall before about the issue of enforcement, and this is not a criticism, but the local regional councils, a lot more active in the enforcement area than other regional councils. And Matamata-Piako will have oversight of that and will bring a consistency so that if somebody transgresses in Southland, are treated the same way as if we do. And this is one of the benefits, I think, of that as well.
I think that it's an interesting one with minimum standards, because why would you go above it? Because if you're on a catchment, why would you go extra cost when it's dilution into a river catchment? You've got to be consistent.
There might be some particular, aspect of the local environment or something that might drive you to say, no, we need to achieve a higher standard because, though the Christian camp in Matamata swims in the river, for example, as part of their, so you might say, well, we should.
So at the high level.
Yeah, at the high level.
Choice.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's a debate to be had at two points. That's cool. Yep.
I get where Sue's coming from with the ratepayer maybe not wanting to cross-subsidise. I mean, we've already
Well,
done
that's got to be discussed.
but as I say, but the thing that concerns me is what 12 months
to prepare
to have a plan. The implementation is like nowhere near that. We're talking
Correct.
No, it'll be a proposition.
There's a lot of, well, the thing is you've got to take the community with you. We can't, like, the mayoral forum doesn't make a decision. We've embarked on this work to get us.
So they've also talked about softening the requirements around CCO to creation.
Yeah.
And I suspect there'll be opportunities because they'll make things like council still own the assets, blah, 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 and therefore you don't have to consult over the proposition if you're wanting to form a CCO.
Adrian, I've sent John Campbell's two pieces.
Cool.
They're very, very interesting.
Just on the next one, there are RMA and the fast tracking, which, fine. The problem for us is the district plan, still the district plan, and they can't ignore it. But we get tied into these called in consents, and the current arrangement is we get no cost reimbursement for that, as our staff get tied up providing information and helping inform the commission or whoever is doing the hearing. So one of the things we believe we should submit on is, hey, if you can't do that, that's great. But local authorities are affected should get reimbursed for anything that they do.
That's right. I was going to add on those around the resource management is that if they were to fast track, like with the fast track stuff, they would have fast track a development that, say, Hamilton City, for example, had in the future, but it was fast tracked and brought forward. There's a challenge there around infrastructure, isn't there?
Totally. And that's one of the challenges with regard to the required local authorities to zone 30 years ahead for residential development. Because one of the things in the work plans we'll get to demonstrate that, as I understand, the challenge there is you are immediately committing to infrastructure expansion, and you have to make the longer you plan and guess growth pattern, the more risk you take in terms of how you figure that out. If you're going to plan 30 years, you're going to be a lot more wrong to plan 10 years. And planning 30 years, you have to start putting in financials and actually committing to that in order to achieve it. So it sounds really neat, but local West people's in the detail.
Balancing act,
the Building Act is changing. One of the big things we're still the building authority unless they take liability away from it, which they won't, and it's been looked at 18 times about taking away the ultimate liability for a badly built building back to the builder, back to the local authority. The local authority is always last person standing. And the other issue is the leaky homes came out of poor regulation, free market forces driving the regulators to not require. I think what we have got, in my humble opinion, is overcomplication. I agree with that. I mean, the amount of effort that has to go into a building consent now is just horrendous. And the processing standards are mind-blowingly complicated and detailed, literally down to full stops and words. Got through one. I think I'll assume that everything else is okay. You go down to anyone else get annoyed by the way that the school government's happening. I can't believe how
that's potato, yeah, that's for the side entry potato.
I can't believe how long
It's just like taking.
And it's all because they.
They're actually, they were sealing this morning.
Not correctly, the front.
No, they probably stopped sealing, yeah.
Now, so the change to the project's layout. Now, just to let you know that there are more detailed project plan reports beneath this. To some extent, we're trying to ensure that council gets information it's interested in, wants to have, in a form that's more visual than perhaps what was originally previously done. But if you want more detail about a whole lot of other stuff, is available to you. So this is a work in progress. I hope it's hitting the right mark. Just in terms of visual, in terms of the supporting style.
I guess the table with the work and it's a high priority, and the rest of the stuff is all pretty good, isn't it? It's listing some of the work that's happening. Then I guess it highlights there is quite a bit going on.
There is, yeah, and trust me, if you saw the more detailed project sheets with the breakdown of all small projects, I mean, it will be.
Yeah, because one question I had around that was with the Matamata connectivity and the shared path through the Matamata domain from Ohio to Mura is being scoped, and this has been funded from the Parks Reserve's LTP budget. So that will have to tie in with the playground project that is going through. I see it is going through the domain. So the path for the playground project, the concrete, remember they talked, Rose talked about shifting it. It was moved over to the side rather than straight through the middle of the playground. So that surely aligns with this work that it's going to go.
I'll make sure it does.
Yeah, because I thought, Rose's concept around that was actually quite good, that it moved. You don't want a playground of bikes going through the middle of a playground. You want them off to the side. So as a major walkway. I had another couple of questions just around the Waitoa playground that talked about, say until further clarification known. Can you give us any understanding of that?
Yeah, well, number one, I don't think we've got
budget.
Number two, I don't understand it to be a priority. Number three, we're not 100% to be fair on whether council's committed to a new playground.
Well, it's never come to it, like we've never actually decided on it.
No.
And I mean, to me, the one in the domain is, more priority.
Your town.
Yeah.
I don't, if you haven't already, I went to get a cup of coffee up at the cafe.
We've been there.
Yeah, we did that.
It's just absolutely, just bloody really
busy, eh?
Yeah, it's just, and the food's good.
And there wasn't a million kids running around
And
in the cafe.
you can sit there having coffee and watch the kids out.
That's it.
It's been
which is fine if they're your kids.
Yeah.
It's greatly designed. You can have a quiet coffee and they're out there, which is great.
Yeah, that's advice,
because there's a daycare going in there somewhere too.
Yes,
yeah, well, that's the big building that's on the.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's a flurry of activity.
Yeah. And just the other question I had was around the stormwater network program, and it's got the water pipe realignment scoping underway. So what was?
I don't have the detail of that, but I do want to talk to you about stormwater and I'll
Yep.
do a Q&A.
Oh, yep. No worries. Did anyone have any questions for Don on this report? Does it make more sense to now having it at that table?
Yeah.
Yep. It's good. You know, you can see there's a lot going on.
This one.
Yep.
If the new access wall in Matamata is fully registered, why aren't we building another one?
No, newly subscribed.
Yeah.
No, I read it that the current one is fully subscribed and the new one is
Have you not seen
going
what's
to do
being
for
built down
15
there?
for
Yeah,
15
no, I was
years.
just reading this and I'm sorry,
No,
did I read it wrong?
Yeah, read it wrong. You read it wrong.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I'm good, as long as I read it.
Well, I hope so because I read it the other way.
Yeah, I
This
didn't
is
read
a-
it the way
yeah.
you read it.
This is a disaster.
Mind you, I know they've got that circle that's big time. Okay, so would someone like to move the report we received? Yeah, thanks, Sarah Jane. Seconded Dane. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Right, thank you, everyone. That concludes our meeting. I declare the meeting closed. Thank you.